Ladies and gentlemen, my name is BrendenPlayz and welcome to the Let's Talk Thursdays podcast. It's going to be an exciting episode as things are starting to amp up just a little bit here in WWE and the world of wrestling. Wrestlemania, as we know, is fast approaching, so plenty of topics to cover in today's show, as basically the full Wrestlemania card, but majority of it has now been announced, and I guess my early opinions is it looks pretty good, so we'll have to, see more as, the weeks unfold. Some of the build-up towards WrestleMania is looking pretty positive. So we'll chat about WrestleMania today. We'll chat about everything that's happened in the latest week of wrestling. Chat about my recent Extreme Rules pay-per-view as well. Some of the comments I wanted to make about that, and my new Universe Mode show that I also introduced. So we'll chat about that. And also, we'll answer some of your questions as well. So, should be an interesting episode of the podcast. So sit back and enjoy it. First of all, as I just said a moment ago, the Extreme Rules pay-per-view took place on my channel over the weekend. And I gotta say, it turned out pretty well. We had a strong number of people show up for the live stream. Nearly about 500 people, which is amazing. I guess, when I kind of look at my numbers and my expectations of how many people I want to show up, I probably think, 400 would be amazing. But if I get 300, I'm very, very happy. Anything above that is fantastic. So to get 500 is really, really great. I think I did a little bit better this time. Recent pay-per-views, I've kind of said it's going to happen on this day, then I've changed days and things like that. But this time I stuck to it. I picked a day, stuck to it. Everything worked perfectly once again. So just like last pay-per-view, or was it Takeover, or I think it might have been Payback. I think it was Payback. Everything worked beautifully. Takeover was great, the one before, but Payback was flawless. And Extreme Rules is very much so like that again. Some people said there was a few issues with the video. It was skipping a little bit. I didn't see that on my end, so I don't know if that was your problem, but if you did have that, I do apologize. But, obviously the big kind of talk about my show was the fact that Goldberg won the championship, and I guess that's been a big talking point in WWE right now. And obviously a lot of people saying, Brendan, you copied WWE, you gave Goldberg the championship, you had the same match, Kevin Owens and Goldberg, same result, blah, 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 blah. You just have to know, guys, that this match I had been planning out for a long time now, and long before there was even the possibility of Kevin Owens and Goldberg happening. So if I had done this a month ago, I would have jumped the gun and I would have been okay. But unfortunately, it just happened to be that I did it a week after Fastlane. So is that bad timing on my my behalf? I don't think so. I don't really care, to be honest. I don't really care. Everything I do on my show, I don't really try and copy anything from WWE. If anything, a lot of things that happens on my show ends up happening on WWE. A lot of storylines, some matches, and whatever that happens pretty soon after. It's happened many times. So, look, yes, WWE is influencing my Universe Mode show. Of course it does. It's based off real life WWE. But if there's a match that happens on Raw, let's say, I don't know, Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns happens on Raw, I'm not going to rush out and do it the next week on my Universe Mode. So just know that. I know a lot of people will kind of give me flack about that, but just know that, look, and just coincidence, really. It just happened to be coincidence. It just happened to be around the same time. So I've been playing this for a while now. But other than that, most of the feedback was pretty positive. Look, I want to kind of address a couple things, and I know not everyone who watches my Universe Mode listens to the podcast and vice versa. So I don't know, but look, a lot of questions I'm getting, and I probably need to make a video itself on this. I'm thinking about making a video saying, hey, send in your questions about my Universe Mode, and I'll explain to you why I'm not doing this, or why I am going to do this. And the reason why I say this is because every video, Brendan, can you split the women's division up? Can you have Raw have a women's title? Can you have a SmackDown have a women's title? And can you have two pay-per-views a month, one for each brand? That's the questions I'm getting every single video, and not just once per video. It's like 5-10 people ask me the same question every day. And look, I've responded to it a gazillion times. But obviously people don't see that, or new people come along and say, well, hey, why is this not happening? Look, I probably will make a video. The more I think about it, probably a good idea. But look, the short version is, for all those wondering, I don't do 2 pay-per-views a month because it's hard enough doing one. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of work to get one done, and we have every time we have a pay-per-view, I believe the card is really good. Like, every match on there is meaningful, has a purpose, and is pay-per-view quality. If I did 2 pay-per-views a month, we'd have to try and create matches out of nothing. Extra number 1 contender matches, or these 2 guys, they're having a match just because. We'd have to create a lot of that just to fill in time on the show and just to have enough matches to fill the pay-per-view. Because at the end of the day, you got the world title, the minor title, the tag titles, and the women's championship. So each brand has 3 championships and shares the extra women's title as well. So there's 4 championships. So that's 4 matches, maybe 3 matches if you don't have the women's title, defend on every, pay-per-view. That's 3 matches guaranteed on pay-per-view. Then you have to come up with at least, probably, 3 more matches? And you got to remember, my shows are only half an hour long each. So it's difficult to create storylines and meaningful, decent matches within that time slot. I mean, I'm sure I could if I really wanted to, but the problem is you're going to see lesser quality pay-per-views. You're going to see lesser quality videos, and I don't want to do that. Plus, the other thing is it takes so much time. Basically I have to focus my entire week on getting the pay-per-view done. All my videos pretty much comes to a stop whilst I'm getting that pay-per-view done, and that's just the way it is. It takes a long time, a lot of effort, and I know a lot of people would rather see more episodes than just, one a week or whatever, but look, it's just not going to happen. I mean, the way I would do it, and I know some people said, hey, why don't you have SmackDown has a pay-per-view one month and Raw has a pay-per-view the next month? Well, then you get your storylines, they take forever to play out. And you got to remember, this is a video game. It's not like I can run an angle and have, these 2 have a promo battle, this week, and there's a contract signing the next week, and then there's a backstage altercation the week after that. I can't do all these angles that are available in real life. Trust me, I would love to do that, but it would drag out storylines just a little bit too long, and the payoff would take too long, and eventually interest would decline. And also, again, your regular Raw and SmackDowns would decline also, because you are dragging things out, you're creating matches out of thin air a little bit more, and you're having matches that aren't really that meaningful. And I get that some people probably would like to see that. Let's say 2 guys that aren't doing that much, let's have them have a match and let's showcase that. But for me, if it's not to do it with a championship, or it doesn't have a current storyline going on, or doesn't have a future intention of a storyline going on, then I'm not going to really put it on the show. So that's that. The women's division, look, on my pay-per-view, there was, I want to say, maybe 450, 480 people watching the pay-per-view. And that was Hideo Itami and Chris Jericho. And then the match after Hideo Itami and Chris Jericho was the women's match. The viewer numbers dropped under 400. And did they come back? Yes, they came back later on. After that match was over, they came back. So that, to me, and this doesn't happen once. This isn't the first time it happens. It happens every single pay-per-view. That is, I gauge that. People say they want to see more women's matches, say they want to see the division split, have more championship matches, but in reality, they don't. Because the feedback that I get when there's a women's match on the pay-per-view, there's people saying this is boring, this is a piss break, blah, 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 blah. And to be honest, if you had said that for the last 3 seasons, season 1, 2, maybe some with season 3, I would agree with you, because I didn't care. I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't care. I didn't put any effort into the women's at all, and you probably noticed. But to be honest, the last season, probably ever since, I guess, WWE's had a women's revolution and started making me care about the women on the main show, on WWE show, I've started to kind of give a little bit more attention to the women on my show. And obviously, I did that thing with Charlotte turning on Becky Lynch at Extreme Rules and kind of starting that new storyline. So I'm trying a few different things. I'm trying to make the women's division a little more interesting. But yet again, still people aren't really reacting too well to it. So despite me making these changes, despite me putting more effort into it, it's still not getting the reaction that I want. And it's not as though I'm getting a million comments, saying, oh my god, I love the women's matches. My favorite match of the show was a women's match. we need to have more women showcase. It's not, it's not that. People, I think, just want to see the women split up because it's happening on real life WWE, which, by the way, I don't think is a good idea. I think in real life WWE, the women should not be split up. I think Raw and SmackDown should not have separate women's division. If they do, I think there should be only one women's championship, because I don't think there's enough women, and wow, I'm saying that wrong. Enough women. Why am I saying enough? Enough women on both shows to make it interesting. Because look, we see on Raw, we see the same 4 or 5 women every single week versus each other. SmackDown's a little bit better, but then again, they've only got maybe 6 or 7 that's interesting. So, at least this way on my show, there's always going to be whoever's getting featured, whoever's in the championship match deserves it and is the best. And we're not having, 6 on each roster and just having matches for the sake. It's better this way. In my opinion, I liked it this way, and I have no intentions. I never had any intentions of changing it. And I don't think it's necessary. And plus, it would mean there's an extra match on the pay-per-view. If not, it could mean that there's a championship match that doesn't even get on the pay-per-views because we have an extra title that we have to deal with and get on the pay-per-views. It's already hard enough now, to keep at that 2-hour limit. I always go over lately. It's frustrating me to keep at that 2-hour limit and get every championship on the card. So, yeah, there's a few reasons, and maybe I'll make a video about it. And if you have any questions regarding Universe Mode and why, I don't do certain things, let me know, and I'll do a video about it and kind of go into more detail. Speaking of doing a video, I debuted this week a new video series called Talking Universe Mode, and we did it obviously on Extreme Rules. It's basically a recap, very similar to what we do here on the podcast. Basically a recap of my own Extreme Rules pay-per-view, basically a recap of my own videos and some of the ideas, that went into it, some of the things that could happen. It's basically a kayfabe show to do with my Extreme Rules, or my, Universe Mode, rather. And we kind of talk about what happened on the show, what could happen, some of the reasons why these things happen, why I think things happen. Basically, my own review. Very similar to what we do on a real-life WWE pay-per-view here on the podcast. And fantastic reviews. Everyone that has commented on it has basically given me love. It's been fantastic. I actually really was a little worried that a lot of people wouldn't like it. I was, I kind of thought about it of doing this show maybe 3 or 4 days ago. I thought about it a long time ago, and I just never really considered doing it. I just thought, nah, no one's going to like that. No one's going to care about that. But I thought, you know what? Stuff it. Let's do it. Let's give it a go. Let's see what people think. And majority of it is a lot of positivity. Majority of it is a lot of love. And it's basically a podcast format, but I try, to make it a little bit more, video worthy by having some clips showing when I'm talking about a certain thing, having it showing on the screen. And I was kind of thinking about it, as like a Raw or a pay-per-view post-show type of deal, where they're discussing about what's happening. Instead of me being on camera, I've just put match, pictures there. But when I'm talking about certain things, showing it on the screen. So that was kind of my idea about it, and most of it's been very positive. So it's been fantastic. I know some people have also requested it being in a podcast format, and definitely something to think about. I don't know if I want to necessarily do that, but look, it's definitely something to think about. But the reason why I probably wouldn't do it in a podcast format, because there's not going to be enough of them. They're going to be maybe once per month, if that. Sometimes there might be a couple extra here and there, but mainly once per month I will do one of those. Unless, like I said, maybe there's a draft coming up. We might discuss the draft and a few possibilities, things like that. Mainly we're going to keep it at 1 per month, and I think that's probably the right thing there. And obviously, as well as that, I think it's a great way for people to kind of catch up on the series as well. If you haven't really been following it too much, that's fair enough. But I think, you could check that out. You can kind of hear what's going on in the series, a bit more of the storyline behind, a bit of backstory behind the pay-per-view, and maybe, catch yourself back up. So, very, very positive there. I'm very, very happy. So, thanks to all who checked that out. And if you haven't already, check it out on the channel. It's called Talking Universe Mode Extreme Rules. Alright, so let's move on into current day wrestling. We move on from Universe Mode to real life WWE. And we're going to start the show. Well, we've already started, but we're going to start the wrestling chat with, of course, one of our newest segments on the show. Yes, we actually have segments. That's crazy. Normally we just talk and then end the show, but we're trying to structure this a little bit better these days. Trying to up the ante, raise the professionalism just a touch, not a lot, just a touch. It is the Fast Five. So basically we chat 5 topics in 5 minutes. So it's very simple. It didn't take a genius to figure this one out, but we figured it out, and it's I like it. So this week we got 5 topics. Some we've kind of touched on a little bit, but others we haven't really talked about at all, if not for a long time. First of all, is one we have touched about a lot, is 205. And the question is, has 205 Live improved? And when I speak about 205, I speak about the entire Cruiserweight division and the 205 Live show. Now, they talked about this on the recent episode of Bring It to the Table, which, by the way, is my favorite show on the network right now. Really, really good. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you do so. Yes, 205 Live and the Cruiserweight division has definitely improved. I think it's, 100 days since 205 Live debuted, a little bit longer since the Cruiserweight division came along. But now, you look at the Cruiserweight division, and there was a recent match on 205 Live, the Fatal 5-Way, or whatever that was, where there's 5 legitimate guys chasing the championship. I think the division has maybe 7 or 8 guys who are all pretty decent. And there's 2 guys, Austin Aries and Neville, at the top of the division, who I think could have a epic match. Those 2 guys are fantastic performers and really could tear the house down at WrestleMania. We'll talk about that later on. But definitely, the show has improved big time. And, a few months ago, maybe even a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, we were saying, man, this is done. But they've introduced a few new characters, Akira Tozawa, for example, now Austin Aries. Grand Metalik was on. Didn't have a great debut, a couple of botches there, so I haven't really seen him since. He hasn't been on Raw anyways. I don't actually watch 205 Live personally, but, I think he's the one, and he's going to be the man if they give him a chance. But they've got plenty of guys there who are so talented. I guess the big criticism is there enough wrestling? Is there too much segment? And I think I saw something where Alicia Fox was eating flowers or something, so they cut some of that bullshit out, and they might improve a little bit further. But anyways, moving on. Is it worth risking Seth Rollins for WrestleMania? Looked very good on Raw. He looks as though his knee was okay, was getting beaten down. I don't know if that was the actual injured knee. It could have been the other knee that was injured, and they were kind of attacking the good knee. I don't know. But he looks good. Is it worth risking him for a match? I mean, it's possible. It's possible. It's worth the risk. I mean, you get the big payoff match, and I'm sure Seth Rollins does not want to miss WrestleMania. He is focused and would rather have WrestleMania than maybe take another month or 2 off afterwards. I think that's the way to go. If Seth Rollins has the WrestleMania match against Triple H, you have Rollins take another month or 2 off. Have an injury angle or have some kind of angle where he's gone for a while. He heals up. He comes back 100% because you need this guy healthy. And yes, we need to have the WrestleMania match. And yes, I'm very much so looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fantastic. I hope it anyways. I mean, looking forward to seeing those 2 guys wrestle for quite some time. I think it's worth the risk, but, have the match, then let Rollins heal up a little later on. Should the Warrior Award be changed? I don't know the name of the footballer because, obviously we don't really hear these kind of stories here in Australia. But some footballer who's gone through, a lot of amazing things. He's overcome a lot of amazing things throughout his life. He got the award. I mean, look, I get what they're going with. I don't know that it's more of like this is probably the new kind of celebrity induction type of deal where they're trying to, get mainstream attention towards the people rather than Warriors' actual wishes of people who work behind the scenes of wrestling, haven't got the recognition. I personally am very annoyed that this is the direction they've gone. I think they should have went in the way the Warrior wanted, recognizing people behind the scenes. It's been frustrating, very frustrating that, they've gone in this direction. I mean, some people that have really got nothing to do with wrestling are now getting these awards. At least Connor the Crusher or whatever, Connor the kid was a huge wrestling fan and was, involved a little bit, touched the hearts of all the wrestlers. These other couple, who was it, Joan, someone, these couple of people, I don't think really have really done anything with wrestling at all. So it just doesn't make sense to me. I think you got to keep it within wrestling related because, these people are going to look silly coming up as a Hall of Fame for the best wrestlers of all time and they're getting some award. and they don't even have any, they're not even involved in it. Is WrestleMania too long? Well, I'm hearing there's going to be at least 14 matches, so it's probably going to be about 5 hours, 6 hours. That's probably too long. I think it's probably too long. I think WrestleMania back in the day was always 3 hours. It slowly crept to 4 hours. Now it's getting to 5, 6 hours, including the pre-show. I think it's too long. Last year's WrestleMania was far too long. It went on for an extra hour. It was ridiculous. So yes, WrestleMania is too long. And finally, and we'll talk more about this later on, but I'll touch on it quickly, is AJ Styles been wasted? The short answer is no. I don't think he's been wasted. And I will talk about this in a moment. This is a very controversial topic. We're running out of time with the Fast Five, but I don't think he is being wasted, and we'll talk about that in a moment. All right, we'll move on to this week's Monday Night Raw. Not a lot to really chat about with Raw, and that seems to be the common trend in recent weeks. SmackDown has just been on fire. Raw has just been rubbish. Dana Brooke turned on Charlotte this week on Raw, and all I have to say about this is, 3 months too late? This is the interesting thing. Charlotte and Dana Brooke, they were a pairing for a fair while, for a good chunk of last year when Dana Brooke, switched from being with Emma to Charlotte. So I'm not sure when that was. Maybe it was, May, June or something like that. Or was it maybe after the brand split? I don't know. But we'll say they were a pairing for a good, 5 or 6 months. So quite some time. Dana Brooke helping Charlotte, protege, blah, blah, blah. And then you notice in the last 2 or 3 months, it's been Charlotte all by herself. Dana Brooke, rarely see her. But now that Sasha Banks is helping out Bayley, well, now all of a sudden Dana Brooke's got to get, they bring Dana Brooke back from obscurity and have her compete, be there next to Charlotte. So really, Dana Brooke has been on her own. Charlotte's been on her own for the last few months. So to bring back Dana Brooke and expect us to really care that Dana Brooke turns on Charlotte after we haven't really seen the two paired up for a long time. 3 months in wrestling is quite some time. The payoff and the angle, it's not going to get. It didn't get anything that it could have possibly done, months ago. Remember, it was week after week after week where Charlotte was, treating Dana Brooke like shit, and that's all well and good. But then you have a 2-month rest period where we don't see the two together at all, and all of a sudden, she comes back, and for 2 weeks they're paired up again. Then she turns on Charlotte. It's just ridiculous. You had any momentum that they had of trying to do this turn angle was gone. It was buried. It was swept under the rug. It's done. It's gone. So now she's done the turn. Is she turning babyface? I don't know. We'll see next week. I don't think the crowd's going to buy her as babyface. I personally don't think the crowd's going to buy Dana Brooke no matter what she does. I think her promos are horrible in the ring. She's terrible. I honestly, she's a very, very, very average wrestler all around. She really doesn't have anything to stand out, because here's the thing. She's on Raw. She's got Sasha. She's got Charlotte. I don't like Bayley, but she's even got Bayley and Nia Jax to compete with us. 4 really pretty decent women. And now Emma's, who knows when she's coming back. She might be back soon. She'll leapfrog Dana Brooke, no doubt. Paige, when she comes back, she'll leapfrog Dana Brooke. So all of a sudden, Dana Brooke is down in, 7th place, which is, I guess, the bottom. I think Alicia Fox is on, Raw too. Maybe she's better than Alicia Fox. Maybe she's, she's not Eden Flowers, so she's slightly, a little better. But she's so far down, on the pecking order that I don't think the fans will ever care. I don't think she'll ever get a push to the point where, fans will begin to care, because I think she's always going to be that, she's got a good look about her, but I don't think she's good enough in the ring or on the mic to really get herself over. And I don't think the crowd are really ever going to react to her as being a top woman, because I don't think she spent the last year losing. I don't think, she can come back from that, at least not anytime soon. So I don't think a babyface turn is all of a sudden going to solve all of Dana Brooke's problems. I think she needs to get better in the ring, and she needs to cut better promos. Once she can start to do that, then maybe it's worth re-looking at her again. Maybe even a repackage, and maybe even a different look. I don't think her, maybe she could go with a different attire, try something else. What does Dana Brooke really do? She just comes out and, she flexes, and that's about it. That's all I can really tell you what Dana Brooke does. So she's got a lot of tweaking to do with her character before she's ever going to be anything other than, I guess, Charlotte's sidekick. Austin Aries and Neville, we touched on this a moment ago, but it seems as though it's fully going ahead now for WrestleMania. It's the match that needed to happen. Austin Aries, Neville. Look, this is great. This is the match that I think could set, just give wrestling fans something to look forward to for the Cruiserweight division. It could just kind of set the bar for the Cruiserweight division. If they have an all-out match at WrestleMania, if they have a killer match, fantastic, which I really think they will. If they give them the time, I think this could be terrific. I believe this could save the Cruiserweights for a little while longer. It could give them some more borrowed time. Now, look, having two standouts in a very lackluster division isn't, ideal, isn't going to save them, but it's certainly going to give them a little bit of hope and something to watch and a reason for the fans to get invested behind them. Neville, we know what he's about. We've seen his character, we've seen the heel turn, we've enjoyed it. I think most of us will agree he's done a great job. And Austin Aries, well, I think the fans are more open to give him a chance. I think his reactions have been a little lackluster. This week he didn't get a great one. Last week he did. So I think Austin Aries has got, if anyone's going to get a chance to get over and get the crowd support easily, it's Austin Aries. So he's the right choice. He's the right guy to go with. I just hope he does succeed. I hope the crowd does respond, and I hope they have a good match at WrestleMania, because if we are going to see this Cruiserweight division long term, we need something. We need something, a reason to get behind it, and this is that reason. This is going to be good. This is going to be fun. And I hope it's as good as I'm thinking it will be, because if this match bombs, I don't see how the Cruiserweight division can come back, because this is like their biggest and best match they could possibly produce. And if their best isn't any good, then how can they come back from that? It's done. Finally, on Raw, the last thing I want to chat about was the Mick Foley segment. This is kind of the big build-up to the show. Who is getting fired? Now, I actually thought it was going to be Mick Foley saying, you know what, screw it, I quit. But it turns out he said, Stephanie, you're fired. And I couldn't agree more with everything that he said. Stephanie is the cancer of Monday Night Raw. She parades around on the show, berating, burying all the talent, talking about how crap the women are and, talking down to them, and no one can ever touch her. And finally we see Mick Foley step up. He's just been, he's been a pussy. That's it. He's been portrayed as that, and it's been embarrassing to watch. It's been very uncomfortable to watch Mick Foley and Stephanie on television together. They've got very little chemistry. It's very awkward. Every one of their segments together is awkward. It's, I'm going to blame Stephanie on this one. I really do. I think she's just a little awkward, when she's not playing, when she's not cutting a bitchy promo. I think she's kind of really awkward on TV. Look, Mick Foley clearly will get fired from being GM. I think that's a given. You can't do Mr. Socko or whatever the heck on Triple H and get away with it. So I'm sure next week on Raw, Stephanie will say, Mick Foley's fired, he's done, and we're going to start looking for a replacement, which obviously the big tease and the big rumor going around is it could be Kurt Angle. But look, I think at the end of the day, Stephanie's the one who's got to go. I think they're spot on. Stephanie is the problem. And she's on TV too much. We've said this before on the show. SmackDown gets it right. Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon, they're not in every segment. Now, obviously, Shane's now going to have a match, but they're not in every segment. They're not taking over the show every week. Whereas Stephanie, you feel like she's in segments just for the sake of it, just to get her on TV. And it's not adding to the show. If anything, it's making the show worse. And she's a big reason why Raw is shit. She's a big reason why Raw is, on the decline. Because for me personally, I just can't stand her. So if they got rid of, if they get rid of Mick Foley, fair enough. I don't think he's done a great job. I think his over-the-top passionate promos are getting a little silly at this point. But I think Stephanie's also the other one who's got to go. But then again, who replaces her as the owner? I guess we always know it's going to be Triple H and Stephanie, so why don't we just have them in the background? Why don't we have to have them on Raw every week? I think Mick Foley running Fastlane was good. no Stephanie, it's fine. So why don't we have Stephanie, maybe she does what Shane does, appears maybe once a month to come out and makes a big decision, helps make a big decision. Because if Kurt Angle's going to be on the show, if they treat Kurt Angle anything like they did with Mick Foley, that would be disgusting, honestly. Mick Foley, he'll take it, and he's been in this position for a lot longer, and he's been around, it won't hurt him too much. But Kurt Angle coming back, big time comeback, all the fans want to see him, love him, for Stephanie to treat Kurt Angle like that and get away with it, I think would be terrible. I think fans would hate that. So that to me says get rid of Stephanie, let Kurt Angle come in if they want him to be the GM, which is the rumor. If he's going to be the GM, let him come in and just be the GM. Why do we need a COO, whatever the hell it is? Why do we need two GMs and two authority figures? We never had that. Yes, we had Vince overseeing it all, I guess, and then a GM on each show. But why do we need Stephanie and Mick Foley working together? Why don't we need Shane and Daniel Bryan? Why don't you just pick a GM and a fade in the background? Yes, Shane, he's running things on SmackDown. And like I said, he can pop up every now and then and make a big decision or be involved in something, but not be on every week. And he isn't really on that much. He is going to be on a little bit more now, but not that much. It was a period of time where you see Shane maybe once a month. That was fine. But it needs to happen on Raw. Because, you guys know that I've been watching 2005 WWE. I'm kind of progressing. I just got to the part where Batista turns on Evolution. Amazing, by the way. One of my favorite moments. Terrific. But you notice that there's Eric Bischoff and Teddy Long as the two GMs. And there's no... In Vince McMahon, he came out at the Royal Rumble, Tory Squads, but he wasn't meant to. That was that was not meant to happen. But you notice he's not on every week. He's not making decisions. It's the GM running the damn show and doing their job, and they're the main vocal point. They're the one authority figure, and they're making all the decisions. Because right now, it feels like on Raw that Mick Foley, he makes a decision, but his decisions aren't valid until Stephanie confirms them. So what's the fucking point of having Mick Foley on the show? It doesn't make any sense. So I get it, and I'm getting wrapped up in the storyline. But for me, personally, if they are going to solve this authority angle, which they love having some kind of authority figure on the show, and personally, I don't mind it, but you just need to have one. Just have one person running the damn thing and leave it at that. And Seth Rollins came out at the end, great reaction, which thank God he hasn't got a great reaction in recent times, but a great reaction and a great finish there with himself and Triple H. I really enjoyed that. I'm very hyped. I'm amped up for the match. I've been wanting to see it. I think it's going to be great. I think, it might be one of the better matches on the Wrestlemania. That is if Seth Rollins can compete 100%, but he looked good. So it kind of makes me wonder, what extent was this injury? Was it ever as serious as we thought? Was he ever really in jeopardy? Was it maybe, alright, he's a 3-week, 4-week injury, but we'll stretch it out just a little longer to make it feel like he's going to miss WrestleMania. Just work the fans a little bit, make it a bit more of a storyline. Or was he, this is a big injury and he could definitely miss WrestleMania. We're on the clock wondering what the hell's going to happen. I'm starting to think it's more of a, we knew this wasn't so bad, but we'll keep letting people know that it's really, really bad and he may miss. So I'm glad he's back. I'm glad he looks good. And they needed to do some kind of angle where they get physical, and it worked out pretty well. All right, moving on to this week's SmackDown, and obviously the big thing coming out of SmackDown was Shane McMahon and AJ Styles. They are official. They are confirmed. AJ Styles got fired after attacking Shane McMahon in the backstage parking lot. This is, again, another reason why I love SmackDown, because we are seeing things happening outside of the ring. One of my favorite things, and one of the things I've been missing the most in WWE in recent years, has been angles and fights and brawls and things happening outside the ring. It's something we don't see on at Raw at all. All we see is the action in the ring. Maybe sometimes they fight in the crowd for a little bit, which is cool, which is nice. But I love seeing, two guys backstage fighting, because in reality, if two guys hate each other, why are they waiting to have a match in the ring? They're going to fight each other backstage. They're going to come after each other backstage. It makes more sense. So Dean Ambrose and Baron Corbin last week fighting backstage makes more sense. And AJ Styles, he's waiting for Shane McMahon to turn up so he can beat the shit out of him. Makes perfect sense. And that was a smart angle. And it's something that WWE needs to do more of. And something that SmackDown is doing more of. Doing more things outside the ring. Because that, to me personally, is more entertaining. Because we see enough in-ring action. We see it all the time. And if that's all we get, it's difficult, in my opinion, to kind of be excited for the shows because there's not a lot of variety. When there's this type of variety, when there's backstage stuff, when there's fights, when there's things going on backstage, or even, for example, Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt happening, that type of segment, these are the things that I personally remember more than a match. These are more moments, and I think WWE needs more moments. More memorable moments that will stick out in your mind. And this is one, obviously Randy Orton burning down Bray's, compound house, whatever, his shed. That's a moment that you'll remember. But are you going to remember that, Bray Wyatt's match with, let's say, Kurt Hawkins? No, you're not. So I get that's a different, circumstance. But, these are the things that I think we need to see more of in WWE. I'm glad SmackDown's doing it, and it just really feels like the two shows are so different. If there is a completely different writing team, it definitely feels like it, and SmackDown has the better writing, because there's more variety, there's more things going on. Every match on the show is just about, it makes sense, and there's not a lot of filler on the show. And like we've said it a lot of times in the show, but it's just more variety, it's just more excitement. There's more things to be excited about. When you watch SmackDown, you feel like more things are happening. It's more enjoyable. Whereas on Raw, we get the New Day coming out. I skip that. I don't even know what they did on this week's Raw because I see the New Day now and they get the fast forward button. I'm sorry. New Day, probably another 2 weeks from getting on the shit list. I'm very close. Very close. So, yeah, I just think SmackDown is so much more enjoyable to watch. But anyways, keep moving on. Carmella added to the women's match. I think that's what we predicted last week. Will there be any more? I would say so. Like I said, Tamina's obviously a chance. They might do her return then at WrestleMania. And they might add someone else. Maybe there's a surprise Legends appearance. Maybe Kelly makes a surprise appearance because they said anyone who's active on the women's roster on SmackDown. I'm sure they can tweak that a little bit there and say anyone who's available can come do it. So, and speaking of women, Mickie James finally gets a win. We've been saying why the hell is she losing every week? It's not helping her at all. Because Mickie James, look, at the end of the day, she didn't get a great reaction when she returned. I think a lot of people went, who's that? Because you got to remember that it's been 8 years or whatever since she's been around. So that's a long time for wrestling fans. And whilst yes, she's been in TNA or whatever, nobody watches TNA, so that's irrelevant. So you have her come back, and then you have her lose. When she's meant to be this legend, what is she, a 6-time women's champion or whatever? She's meant to be a legend, and when she's coming back and she's losing all the time, people aren't going to take her seriously. And if you have her to the point where she's losing all the time too much, eventually people aren't going to care about her whatsoever. And I think she was on the brink of being on that. Now she's done, I don't know if she's turned babyface, so to say. I think she's just turned on her partner, Alexa Bliss. And she gets the win over Bliss. She probably will turn babyface not too long, which I think she should have came in as a babyface to begin with. So I think WWE maybe have seen that they've made a mistake and that it's not working with Mickie James, and they need to turn her back babyface. And really, all they need to do is get us some wins, get us some momentum, get us something to cheer about. Because you bring her back as this great legend, and she's losing to everyone. She's never going to get over from that. It's never going to benefit her. Dean Ambrose and Baron Corbin looks as though that's confirmed for WrestleMania. I have no problem with that. I think that's fine. I maybe thought there might be a multi-man ladder match. It kind of seems as though that's somewhat of a tradition in the making for WrestleMania, but I'm not completely against not having that. I don't really care. Ambrose and Corbin has been built up decently, so that'll be okay. And the Usos and American Alpha likely confirmed as well. I would say that's a pre-show match. We've kind of seen that a little bit, and I think that's just a match to get those teams on the card. SmackDown's tag division needs a lot of work, and I think the Usos American Alpha is really the only decent match they can produce at this point. And I don't know who they bring in, what they do to save this tag division, because they've got two decent teams, like I said. Hype Bros, they lost them. They were okay. They'll probably say they were the third decent team. Slade and Rhino, they're done. They lost Randy and Bray. The rest, Ascension, Vaudevillains, Breezango, they've buried those teams. They're done. And I don't like the word buried because people don't use it properly, but those three teams have been buried. Done. Ruined. They've lost so much that I don't know if they could ever possibly come back from it. And so much so, I think probably at least one of those teams will be released. And they normally release people around about May, April, May, June. I'd say one of those teams will be gone by then. Speaking of releases, Jack Swagger officially gone now. Like I said last week, no loss. And we'll kind of move on to some other little tidbits as well before we get into our listener questions. Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. Rumor is that Brock Lesnar will be sticking around and appearing a lot more in his final year. I'll believe it when I see it. Look, they want to use, if they're going to have him, appear a lot more before his contract expires. I think the consensus is that this could be his final year in WWE. Will he re-sign? I don't know. He's, I think, turning or is now 40. So he's at that age where he doesn't need to do anything. He's finished his UFC career. That's done. So this is more so as a bit of a hobby and a bit of a payday, something to do. I don't know if he's going to be all that excited. It seems like he's already got zero motivation as it is. It seems as though he already doesn't give a shit. And I feel like 2 or 3 years ago he gave a little bit of a shit. Now he gives no shits. So would Lesnar be such a loss? Yes, it would be. You lose a marquee draw, you lose a big name. We don't want to lose Brock Lesnar, especially after the last 5 years of building him up as this monster that he is. But look, if this is his final year, then I guess you got to start having him put over some of the next guys coming through. I think they've got to try and get Lesnar to negotiate a contract within the next 3 months, because they need to have a long-term plan. They need at least a 6-month plan to how they're going to use Lesnar in his final 6 months. They don't want to have Lesnar tell them, in February next year that he's not re-signing, he's going, when they've had the championship on him, they've had him, as their top guy, throughout the majority of the year, and then all of a sudden he's leaving. That would be disastrous. So they need to get a new contract or figure out whether or not he's going to leave right now. Now, if not at latest before SummerSlam, so they can start to do some planning. Goldberg, his future is still unknown. We don't know if he's going to stick around. I would probably say he won't. I think there's no better way to ride off into sunset than by having a WrestleMania match, main eventing WrestleMania for the championship. Yes, he's going to lose, and I'm sure Goldberg's not happy about losing, because he's one of those guys that does not like to lose. He's all about himself. But if he has a disastrous match and his legacy is, and I guess he probably doesn't care, because you got to remember he left in WrestleMania 20 and he had one of the worst matches of WrestleMania history, and he wasn't rushing back anytime soon to rectify that. So if he has another disastrous match with Lesnar at WrestleMania, will he be trying to stay around to rectify that? I don't think so. Would it be good to see Goldberg stick around a little longer, maybe do a SummerSlam match, and then lose to another new up-and-coming talent? Yes, that's what I think needs to happen. If you have Goldberg, he comes back, he wins the belt, he beats Lesnar, he has an insane amount of momentum in storyline-wise, he's destroying everyone, he's now built as this monster, unbeatable, he's beating everyone, all these top guys in 20 seconds. For him to lose to Lesnar, and that's it, I think would be terrible. I think it would be stupid. What a terrible way to kind of use this guy and not really get anything out of him. Because at the end of the day, he's 50. He's only got a handful of matches left in him, if anything. So why not have this guy put over some of your new talent, and hey, let's get them some momentum, let's make them look good, and let's go from there. But that's not what they're going to do. If they did do that, who would be the one to get that win? Your favorite, Roman Reigns. He would be the one. He would be the one to beat Goldberg. And I'm sure if he is going to stick around, I have no doubt in my mind Goldberg and Roman Reigns would happen. But I would like to see Braun Strowman rip through Goldberg. He'd be the one to destroy him. I think that'd be great. What a way to put over Braun Strowman. I think it's quite clear that they believe Braun Strowman is going to be the man. They think he's the next big monster. This guy's going to be around for a few more years. They've been searching for that guy for such a long time. They found it. I think Braun Strowman is that guy. So why not actually give him some big wins? Beat Goldberg. Beat the hell out of Goldberg. Not just beat him, but beat the shit out of him. And put Braun over as this badass guy. That's the way to do it. That's the way to use Goldberg. Not have him versus Lesnar, who's already the man. If anything, Lesnar needs to be starting to be the guy that is putting over the talent. Not the guy who's getting the big wins over the guys who should be losing. So, yeah, they've kind of... I don't know. They're just not getting any value out of Goldberg long term. Yes, they're getting a popping a buy rate. They're popping a bit decent rating. But are they getting... their younger guys are going to be over for the next, 6 years, 5, 10 years. Are they getting these guys those victories? No, they're not. And I think that's the big issue with the fans. That's their reaction. They want to see these new guys get these wins and get some momentum and get some, get over. Instead of the guys who are already established get these wins. And I think that's my personal issue. I think that's a lot of people's issue. The other rumor is that Roman Reigns and Lesnar will be set in stone for WrestleMania 34. Now, look, I don't know what the rumor was for WrestleMania 33's main event when, it was last year. I wish I could remember. But more often than not, these matches, I think it might have been Undertaker and Cena. I think that was the match just set in stone. That's going to happen. Didn't happen. These rumors are bullshit. So I would take it with a grain of salt. But Lesnar and Reigns for the championship is what they're currently planning for next year, which basically means another year of Roman Reigns being a babyface. And what he did on Raw, the way he's talking about The Undertaker, he is acting like a heel. And I get it, it's just, he's got a lot of hate, and I get this is why he's doing it, just to piss people off. People already hate him, so he's just healing it up. But just turn him heel. If you're going to make the guy act like a heel, eventually kids aren't going to like that, and more people are going to hate him because he's acting like a guy that they should hate. When he's a guy that they're meant to cheer, they're not going to cheer him at all. No one's going to cheer him if he's acting like this. He's acting like like an egotistical guy. He's like, I'm the man, this is my yard, you can't beat me, I'm better than you. If he's saying this type of crap about The Undertaker, then who the hell is going to want to cheer this guy? If he's not a heel, but trying to get this guy cheered, they're doing the exact opposite. They're trying to get him booed. So whoever's writing this shit, well, you've accomplished the art of writing for a heel. Well done, but you haven't accomplished the art of writing for a babyface, have you? Because you're doing it backwards. So Roman Reigns, for God's sake, if you're going to have him act like a heel, just turn the freaking guy heel. Save us all the stress. If you're going to have him be the next Cena, then have him be the next Cena. Act like a babyface. Kiss some babies. But don't call out The Undertaker and, talk about how great you are and how, he's a has-been and you're going to beat the shit out of him at WrestleMania. You're going to retire him. He said he's going to retire The Undertaker. How in the hell can you justify him as being a babyface in that situation? Well, the commentator said, well, Roman Reigns is just really confident in himself. He just said he's going to retire The Undertaker and we still expect to cheer for this guy. It doesn't make any sense. We're meant to cheer for a man who wants to retire a legend that everyone beloves. Why are we... no one's cheering for that. I don't dislike Roman Reigns. I'm not one of those guys who've jumped on the bandwagon, and that's what I believe it is. I believe that most people don't really... you can say that you hate Roman Reigns, you despise him, but at the end of the day, it's a bandwagon. It's exactly what we were with Daniel Bryan a few years ago. I don't believe everyone was in love with Daniel Bryan. I believe it became the popular thing to do and the bandwagon. I didn't jump on the bandwagon then because I thought Daniel Bryan was alright. Great wrestler, personality. Roman Reigns, I think he's good in the ring. I think some of his matches are a little bit repetitive as of late, but that's normal. John Cena went for the same thing. John Cena, it took him 10 years to kind of spice up his move set. So will it take Roman Reigns 10 years? Maybe, but Reigns, his promo ability is not great. We know that. And he's doing less and less promos. And, if he is doing one, they're shorter, which I think is the right way to go. So they're starting to use him a little bit better in some regard, but they're starting to use him terribly, for the sole purpose of him getting over as a babyface. It's just silly. And I just think people hate him because it's the cool thing to do. If you went to a WWE show and you were cheering for Roman Reigns, I'm sure people around you would be like, yo, dude, why are you cheering for Reigns? This guy sucks. And they would feel the pressure to cheer, to boo Roman Reigns rather than to cheer him. So I think it's the hip thing to do. I think it's the cool thing to do. And personally, I'm not on that bandwagon, but I just feel as though if they are going to make Roman Reigns act like a heel, then just turn the guy heel, because it's just ridiculous at this point. I'm going to retire The Undertaker. Yeah, you do it, Roman. We love you, man. You retire that legend. You retire one of our favorites. No one's saying that. It's stupid. Another rumor going around, Shinsuke Nakamura going to debut post-WrestleMania. He's been taking off some of the NXT live events that are happening around about June, I believe, on a UK tour, leading to a lot of speculation that he will be making his main roster debut. I think that's a given. I think it's a given. Why wouldn't he? He's done everything there is to do in NXT. And it's time. It's time to get this guy up here. I personally would have him go to SmackDown. I think with Samoa Joe going on Raw, I would have done Nakamura probably on Raw and then Joe to SmackDown, but we'll do, vice versa. I think Nakamura will go to SmackDown and he can be that next big thing over on SmackDown. They've already got that on Raw. I hope they don't have him be a Raw guy, because then you've just got so many guys trying to breathe, trying to get their head above the water, that eventually they're all going to just sink. You need to have these next big things spaced out. Once again, I can compare it to what I'm watching now on real, 2005 WWE. Got Batista and John Cena. That's their next two big things. One's on SmackDown, one's on Raw. If Nakamura, they believe, is the next big thing, maybe Finn Balor, maybe Samoa Joe, you space them out. You put a couple on Raw, you put a couple on SmackDown. Don't have them all on the one show, because eventually they're all going to be starting fighting each other, and one's going to go ahead, the other's going to go down. Instead of having all four of them, or three of them, they're all going up because, one of them wins this rivalry, the other one wins this rivalry, and the other one's on SmackDown winning these rivalries. So, have Nakamura go on SmackDown if he's going to come up. Finn Balor returned to WWE on live events. Does this ruin his return? I think so. I think we all kind of knew he was going to return around about now, but now he's wrestling, so basically we know any time now he's going to appear on Raw. When? Most likely after WrestleMania. Maybe he makes an appearance at WrestleMania as well. Maybe that's the way to go. Maybe he confronts, Lesnar, saying, after WrestleMania, comes out surprise and confronts Lesnar after the match, and you set up Balor versus Lesnar for the championship after WrestleMania. Personally, I would have liked Kevin Owens and Finn Balor, because I think that would have tied in the storyline a little bit nicer, but, we can't always get what we want. So I think it does ruin the return. I think we kind of knew that, he's going to return around now, but still we didn't know if he's, ready to go yet or not, and now we do. So, yeah, I think it's a little disappointing, and I hate that WWE does this. I hate that WWE does not allow surprise returns anymore. I get why, but really, you need surprises. You need moments. As we said earlier in the show, you need special moments, and this would have been one of them. Some other little news happening on the independent circuit. A guy that I couldn't give a shit about. A former, he's a permanent member of the shit list. Adam Rose. Remember him? He's retiring from wrestling, and look, another guy who tried to make it outside WWE. He left WWE, hasn't become shit. Bit like Ryback. I was a big fan of Ryback, but he hasn't done much. TNA, he's done a lot of great things. Did I mention it last week? I'm not sure if I did. I think I may have. But TNA's, they've done some great decisions. I'm really liking the direction that they're going in. We did mention it last week. And there's a few guys that, WWE have let go that maybe could have made a bit of a run in TNA, done something. Some have been there. Cody Rhodes went there. Damien Sandow went there. I don't like Damien Sandow's new direction. But there's a few guys that could have done something a little bit more post-WWE, but haven't really done anything. And that's like, Aldo Rose was his name. He's had a few independent shots, but he's he's going nowhere. Plus, he's quite up there in age now, so it's done. So, just another one of those guys. You leave WWE and it's all over. Jack Swagger, he's been saying that this is going to be great for Jack Swagger fans. He's leaving WWE. This is big things for him. I don't think so. I think he's going to be one of those guys that will be on independent shows, and that'll be it. He's not exactly Alberto Del Rio. I think Swagger is, a bit like it's a bit like Jinder Mahal leaving WWE, a few years ago. Did he really do much when he left? No. So that's pretty much what Jack's. It's very similar to Adam Rose. Swagger leaving, he's going to have as much, notoriety on the independents as Adam Rose. And finally, we talked about this a few weeks ago with Lucha Underground with their Netflix deal. It's official. They are on Netflix, and they are now viewable to watch on Netflix right now. Unfortunately, if you're like me and you have Netflix in Australia, we don't have Lucha Underground. I think the UK don't have it as well. I think it's only available to the American region. I think that includes Latin America as well. Is that Mexico? I think so. So America and I think the Mexico, they get Lucha Underground. Please bring it over here to Australia. I want to watch it. Unfortunately, you can't use, proxies or whatever anymore to use Netflix because they've really shut all that down. So I used to do that to watch Netflix because it wasn't even available in Australia a couple of years ago. So I used to have that just to get Netflix. It was amazing, and then they shut it down. But they brought out Australian Netflix with very little to no shows on it at all. Australian Netflix is still pretty shitty. It's getting better, but it's still pretty shitty. And not having Lucha Underground on there, it kind of sucks. But although I went on the American one, and I went on there and I couldn't find Lucha Underground. I had to search for it. It wasn't as though, normally something new comes on Netflix, and it's under recently added. New shows, what's new. And I couldn't find Lucha Underground on there. Was it because it was brand new? They haven't added that to that yet? Maybe. But that's not good that they're not really showcasing it or advertising it, because how are people going to know that it's new? How are people going to find it easier, and when it's just been added? Because I always go to the recently added. I don't know about you guys, but I see recently added and I'm there. What's new? I want to see what's new. What haven't I seen? And I go there to check it out. If I saw Lucha Underground and I'm a wrestling fan, definitely I'll check that out. Or, maybe I'm not a wrestling fan. I'm saying, what's this? Let me check it out. So hopefully that goes there. But that's really all I have to say. I had one little gaming thing, but we are kind of getting out of time. I just want to kind of mention quickly, Call of Duty Remastered. They're releasing a map pack, and this map pack is remastered maps from the original game, and they're expecting you to pay, what is it, $15? I think it's $20 in Australia. They expect me to pay $20 for 4 maps from Call of Duty 4 that are not new, but they expect me to pay for 4 maps that I've already played on. Well, I actually didn't play on because I didn't have COD 4, but people have already played on. Nothing new. That is disgusting. That is disgraceful. Activision has done it again. Boycott that. Don't buy that. That's seriously. If you love the game so much and you're willing to do it, fair enough. Go for it. But if you have a brain, don't support this nonsense. If they added, I actually thought it was 4 new maps. And I thought, oh wow, they're adding new maps to COD 4. That's interesting. But, that could be cool. I'd be okay with that. But it's 4 remastered maps. That's a joke. And if you're buying that, you've got to love that game so much. Otherwise, it is a waste of money. And it's just supporting terrible business behavior. And I cannot support that. You look at Battlefield 1's map pack. And I've said this for years, that Battlefield does DLC right for shooters. Activision and Call of Duty does it wrong. Always has. Overpriced, just getting maps, not worth it. And these maps, they die out quickly. Battlefield, at least, when you buy these maps, you're getting new guns, you're getting new maps, new vehicles. It's way more worth the price tag. Alright, so we have a few questions before we get out of here. I apologize, it's going to be a little bit of a longer show. But, if you enjoy the show, you'll enjoy that. Otherwise, you'll clock out after the hour mark. Let's get into some of the questions before we end this week's show. Alrighty, so the first question is coming from Jojo Moreno. Do you see any upside to a Lesnar or Goldberg win at WrestleMania? We kind of talked about this one earlier on, but there really is no upside. Lesnar Goes back to being the beast that he has been for the last few years. Goldberg, he wins. Does he retire the championship the next night and walks away? Realistically, no one is really going to improve or be at any higher level than they were after this match, which I think is an issue with the Wrestlemania, because I think right now with Wrestlemania, you've got to get these newer guys over. It's desperate. WWE in a point in time where they need their newer stars to get these wins and become big deals. And I get that they're focusing on Lesnar and Goldberg because it is a draw and whatever, but they've got to do something. And this doesn't really help anyone. Johnny Dixon, who do you think is the best? He's got a few questions. Who do you think is the best talker of all time in the women's division? Women have always... Look, I'm not a huge follower of women's wrestling in terms of, anything pre the Trish Stratus era. I'm not quite familiar with that. Like I've been saying, I've been watching the 05, and I really never really called Trish being a heel that much, but she's a heel at the moment in 05. She's great. She's a good talker. I think Lita's always been pretty poor on the mic. Charlotte is a great promo, and I think right now at the moment, Alexa Bliss is really impressing me a lot with her mic skills. So there's a few, but all time it's hard to say because I kind of missed that whole... When women were going well... Look, to be honest, I don't know, because I don't really go back and watch women's stuff. Anything that I've kind of missed in the women's division, I've missed, and I haven't really gone back to see it. So my knowledge on women's wrestling for the WWE is very, very poor. So there's a couple. He also said, who do you think desperately needs a new finisher? The one name that pops in my mind straight away is probably Seth Rollins. The pedigree. Now that he's feuding with Triple H, he's no longer his protege or whatever. Him using the pedigree is stupid. The curb stomp I thought was a great finisher for him, and it sucks that they don't want to have him use it anymore. But I think Seth Rollins, he's got to find something else. He's got to do something else. And what better time to debut it than, I guess, at WrestleMania? I guess, well, maybe debuting a new move is kind of risky at WrestleMania. Maybe having him beat Triple H with the pedigree. And that's if he does beat Triple H. Wouldn't surprise me if Triple H beats him. But I think definitely Seth Rollins. And his last question was, who would I give a new entrance theme to? Nia Jax. Her entrance, she's trying to be a dominant, badass woman. She comes out to I'm Not Like Most Girls, and it's a little hip-hop, happy song. It's stupid. She needs something, go back to Karma. Her theme song was scary. It was... you felt as though, oh shit, you don't get that feeling when Nia Jax music hits. It's terrible. Jonathan McDonald, could you do a Let's Play of a game that you like, just to try it on your channel, and if it does well, then keep them? Well, look, Jonathan, this is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and it's something I have done a little bit here and there, and I will admit I was slack, and I could have done a lot more of it now that I have the new computer and new equipment to do it. I could easily do it a lot more and do it better than I ever have. Reason why I haven't done it is because I'm at that stage with my YouTube channel that I'm very content with doing what I'm doing. I'm not really trying to, I'm not really trying to become a 1 million subscriber channel, which were my dreams. If a couple of years ago I really wanted to be as big as I possibly could. Now I'm just happy making the best possible universe of my videos I can. That's what people subscribe to see. That's what I want to give them. I want to give them the best possible videos that I enjoy doing. I love making universe mode. It's so fun. I love doing it. I want to make the best possible episodes I can. And if whatever amount of subscribers I get, whatever amount of views I get is what I get. I'm happy. I just want to keep doing what I do. Because I've said repeatedly, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this for. Maybe this is my last year. Maybe I do another one. So I'm kind of content where I'm at. And I'm not really trying to take it to that next level or try and put any more pressure on myself. I'm just happy to do what I'm doing. If I'm going to play a game that I like, I'll stream it. And I haven't been streaming a lot. I know that. And it's something I should do more. But it's definitely something I would like to do. And when I stream, I play games that I like to play. Play whatever I want. So that's kind of where I share that. I know I haven't done that a lot, but if I would do that more, that's what I would do. Alfonso Romero, Do you think Sister Abigail might finally make an appearance soon? No, I don't. If they were going to do that, they would have done it years ago. I think that's never going to happen. Probably too hard to find the right character to fit. And I think it's one of those things that are better left as an unknown or as an unseen and not actually having someone portray that character. Thomas Speller. He says that he loves my Talking Universe Mode series. He wants to know, have I considered getting fans of the show on to discuss the pay-per-views? Well, that was one of the big reasons why I never did it. I feel as though if I'm going to do a Talking Universe Mode show, that's what I need to do. I need to have people on. You remember that I used to do pay-per-view pre-shows, and they were about like an hour show, half an hour show, with me and a couple of people that watched the show, and we would discuss it. We would discuss the matches, talk about it. I would ask them questions, and all of them turned out pretty well. I think the guests that I had on were great. It was just the scheduling and the time, dealing with people on their time. Had a lot of people not show up when I wanted them to. It just became so difficult to organize, and I just said, screw it, forget about it. I'll just, not do it. And it's so much easier to work on my own schedule, so much easier to do it by myself because I know it's going to get done. I know it's going to be pretty good. If it's not good, I've only got myself to blame. I'm not running the risk of it being a shit show with some random person that I don't really know too much or trust too much that I know they're going to be entertaining, because I don't really know anyone that watches my show. And a lot of people the people that used to come on and do the pre-shows and the people that I do know well enough to invite on and talk to don't really watch my series enough to be good enough to chat about it. So he also has another question. What is a WWE match you can watch over and over again and still be lost in the moment? First one that popped in my head was Hulk Hogan versus The Rock, WrestleMania 18. The crowd was electric. You watch that and you still get a smile on your face. It still holds up as an iconic moment. It was terrific. Who cares about the match? You could be irrelevant. It was just a moment, like I said, moments. And that was amazing. That was just something that you'll always remember as a wrestling fan. You think about the great wrestling moments, and that's one of them. You think about that. And last question. Speaking of The Rock, Cameron Fox says, how much airtime do you think The Rock will take at WrestleMania? Well, last year was just terrible. What was it, 25 minutes, half an hour? It was not good. It was a waste of time. It was just ridiculous. Far too much. If he's going to appear, I think they'll probably keep it to 10-15 minutes. I'm sure that there will be some kind of legend segment. I don't know if it'll be The Rock. It probably will be. I'm sure they want it to be The Rock. I'm sure they would love to have The Rock on the show. If they get him, that'd be great. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be some kind of legends thing. But it doesn't need to be half an hour. It doesn't need to be half an hour. I think they tried to recreate the WrestleMania 30 moment with The Rock. I think they wanted to have something as special and as iconic as that. The Rock doing all this crazy shit. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. And that's pretty much all we have time for this week's edition of the podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you leave a like on this. And leave a comment about any of our discussions on the podcast today. And leave a question in the comments section or over at the Facebook page, facebook.com/BrendenPlayz. And leave a question for next week's episode. I would love to hear and read your questions. So you can also leave a voicemail. That's the only way I'll be able to hear it, is by leaving a voicemail on the website, BrendenPlayz.com, clicking the green button on the right-hand side of the page. And check out Extreme Rules if you haven't already. Check out the Talking Universe Mode episode that I did. Very happy with it. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you check it out. And for those of you wondering, the next episode of Universe Mode will be coming up in the next couple of days. Slammy Awards, I've started working on it finally. And I think I'm going to get it done within... I reckon I'll probably try to get it done tomorrow or the weekend. So it is coming. Finally. This has been very poor for me. It was meant to come a month ago. So, yeah. That was pretty poor. Pretty bad for me. So it is finally coming. And hopefully it'll be good. With that, I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next Thursday.